I love this topic. Okay, how self-love can help you to create a happier marriage. This is such an important topic, and I love discussing this because often when we think of the term self-love, we can think of just sort of like self-care and nourishing ourselves or soothing ourselves through our senses. Or we might even think, depending on your background and your relationship to this term, you might think that it sounds kind of selfish or self-centered, or it's about neglecting your family in order to just focus on what you want. And that's understandably not appealing for a lot of people. If it feels like, to love myself, I have to neglect other people that I care about. And that's why I want us to think about actually how self-love enhances our relationships. So in this particular video, we're talking about how it enhances your marriage. So in order for this to work, for self-love to create a happier marriage for you and your partner, or just even a happier, long-term relationship, it doesn't require that you have perfect self-love. This isn't like you have to be perfectly confident or have really high self-esteem. You just have to be practicing it. You just have to be moving in the direction of intentionally growing in your love and the love that you demonstrate for yourself in order for you to see some of these results that I'm going to talk about today in this video. And of course, I always want to make a note of this. This does not apply to abusive partners. So if you are in a relationship where there's any kind of violence, extreme control, or power dynamics, please know that this does not apply, okay? This is for relationships where that is not a factor and where the both of you may be under stress and you're needing some help, but not to the extent of where there's actual abuse and control and violence or emotional violence. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the first thing that self-love helps to create that leads to a happier marriage. So first of all, when we actually practice authentic self-love, and this is not like arrogance or, discounting other people's needs, just authentic self-love and acceptance, that helps to facilitate and grow within us a sense of generosity and compassion and acceptance, right? And so the reason why this is so powerful is that it actually helps to drive down or protect us from something that the Gottman Couples Institute describes as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse is something that they've studied over time, and that they've seen that these are particular signs that can almost down to a couple predict the likelihood of divorce for a married couple. So these 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling, otherwise known as the silent treatment. These are all qualities of an unhealthy marriage, a strained marriage. And these are all qualities, of course, that are exacerbated by stress. On this channel, I talk about stress a lot because it's something that all of us are facing in different ways. These are all exacerbated by stress, and certainly they'll create more stress in a strained marriage. But when you have someone who is practicing self-love, that individual, even just that individual, even if both people aren't doing that work necessarily, they can help to contribute to a more positive quality of interactions with their partner and inside that marriage. And it can make the marriage more resistant to some of these other qualities that I just mentioned earlier that can lead to separation and dysfunction in the relationship. So that's one of the ways that self-love is so hugely important. Of course, if both parties are doing it, even better. But even if it's just you doing that work, it can still make an incredible difference and actually inspire your partner to come alongside, because the truth is, if you guys are both in it and you're both committed, neither one of you wants to be miserable, right? So if you're both looking for a happier marriage, they're more willing to come alongside if they see you doing that work too. So the next way that self-love contributes to a happier marriage is that it makes you speak up. It makes you speak up and not give up, right? If you care for yourself, if you know that you are worthy of good things and your partner is too, it means that you're less likely to just sort of sit back and let things kind of crumble or let things just sort of stay status quo and be really unsatisfied. You know that you deserve more in the relationship, that you can have more. And so you're more willing to fight for those things and to put in the time and the effort and the intentionality to achieve that high quality relationship when you are developing and investing in your own self-love. So that commitment obviously is huge for actually seeing progress in the relationship. As with anything, right? Whenever we have a goal that we're setting out to achieve, if we know, hey, I know that this is possible, I want it for myself, I'm going to do what it takes, I'm going to figure it out, I'm assuming that there's a way for me to achieve this goal. There's a different kind of energy that comes with that. And when we apply that to our marriages as well, then we can see a lot of growth happen even within a short amount of time. So the third way that self-love contributes to a happier marriage is that it interrupts the pattern of codependence or excessive reliance. I've had a lot of clients in my other line of work who, struggled with codependency, and they see how it comes up and causes a lot of dysfunction in their relationships, or even ends their relationships, whether after a short time or a long time, and it's incredibly frustrating for them. Now with self-love, if you are learning to recognize your own needs and to accept them, that they just are what they are, and to honor them and to find ways to fulfill them that are healthy and appropriate for you, then you're not looking all the time to your partner to fulfill your needs or to fill up your empty well, like the empty well that you have inside, because you take more responsibility for doing that for yourself. So when you're not demanding that your partner, fill you up or meet all of your needs, right? It also means that you're less likely to expect yourself to do the same for them. You're not expecting that you should be able to fill up all their needs when it's their responsibility, right? This says nothing of being reliable for each other, right? Because actually the goal is to move towards interdependence, away from codependency and towards interdependence. Interdependence is a mutual reliance, mutual support. And it's a positive thing to be able to rely on each other because you know that you'll be there for each other, that you're going to do your best, that you're going to prioritize each other. That's different than being codependent and expecting someone to fill up all of your needs and kind of coming to them with your emptiness and saying, fill me up. There's so much pressure with that. When you know that you have the means and the tools and the know-how for how to fill up your own well, then you can go to them and be like, hey, I need encouragement, or can you come alongside me as I'm doing this thing, or can you cheer me on or remind me why this is possible, right? You can ask for encouragement and support, but it's a lot less weight on them. And if they can't be there for you at that time for whatever reason, maybe they're going through their own thing. We all have stages where we are more or less reliable based on just what's going on in our life or in our careers, right? Or with our health. There's times when we can't be as perfectly supportive as partners or as friends or anything else, just because of what we're the strain that we're under. So if you hit a period of time where your partner isn't able to be all in the way they would like to be for you, it means that it's not going to derail the relationship, right? Because you're aware that they are doing their best. They feel seen for what they are trying to do and how they're trying to show up for you. And then when the tables, like the roles are reversed, right? They can also have that same compassion for you and accept that as much as you want to be there for them, you got a lot on your plate and you can't quite meet them at that level as you were able to before. And it's temporary, right? Life comes in waves. So being able to have reasonable and healthy expectations of each other helps so much. And that comes from a place of self-love where you feel like you are capable enough to handle what you need to handle and also, benefit from the support of your partner. All right. And then number 4, self-love helps facilitate a happier marriage because it allows you to see your own needs more accurately and to see yourself more accurately. So this is great, right? Because this is that realm where learning to love yourself in a healthier fashion keeps you from getting distracted and caught up in excessive guilt or self-blame. When it comes to the quality of a relationship, you're not thinking, oh, it's all on me, it's all my fault, if only I were more this, then they would be happier with me, or something like that. You don't get caught up in that because you know yourself, and knowing yourself accurately means not only do you own your flaws. A lot of times when we think about being like having a sober assessment of ourselves or a real, true assessment of ourselves, we think more towards the negative, like, okay, I gotta get real about what's wrong with me. But it's not just that. It's also owning the ways in which you are just incredibly divinely unique and irreplaceable. It means owning your humor, owning your affection, right? Owning your beauty, all these things. It means you're owning everything, not just that there's something that's flawed about you. That actually wouldn't be accurate because it would be missing a whole big part of the picture. All the things about you that are wonderful, irreplaceable, etc. So when you have this accurate view of yourself that includes, the character struggles that you're working on, as well as the things that are amazing about you, you can be much more balanced in your view of like how much responsibility to take of any given issue. You don't get stuck in that excessive guilt place. And that opens you up to be much more creative when it comes to identifying solutions for the actual problems that are there. You'll be able to have a much more clear view of what are the actual issues in my relationship. Is it that I'm boring? Or is it that I'm much more introverted at this stage of life? And so I actually need much more downtime than I did earlier on in our relationship. And I need to carve out that time and have it protected. And I need us to kind of get on the same page with that, right? That's a whole different kind of approach than, oh, I'm just so boring. They're much more interested in that person over there because they're so much more interesting and pretty and, whatever else, all these things that may have nothing to do with what's going on. And so when you're able to accurately identify the issues or the unmet needs for you or your partner, then it's much more effective in terms of finding the right solutions or approaches that will actually address what is needed, as opposed to fixing something that isn't even actually broken. Okay. This helps you to think of like, what are the right experiments to try? So for the partner that needs more sort of social outings and more stimulating activities, right? They have a different self-love style than you. Then you're figuring out, okay, how do we balance that within our relationship along with, my needs for more downtime, more alone time, etc. And I do just want to plug in here, if you're wondering what your self-love style is and if it's different from your partner's, be sure to go to the link below. It's in the description box. I have a free self-love quiz that asks you different questions and assesses what your primary self-love style is. So you can take it, your partner can take it, and you guys can look at the results and see like, oh, maybe that's why these things are like not lining up for us, or we're having arguments about how we're spending our weekends. One person feels like they never get to see their friends, and the other person feels like you're always overscheduling me and not telling me like what's on our calendar, right? So be sure to check out that quiz. That can give you a little bit of a window into like what may be going on in terms of where you're diverging, right? Where your paths are just like going in completely opposite directions that you may not even quite realize. So again, I just want you to consider and be encouraged that you can focus on being intentional and growing in your self-love. And it doesn't mean that you are putting that ahead of your marriage, right? This is all back to that same statement that we're always told we get on the plane. You got to put your mask on first before you put it on your partner, your grandma, your baby. You got to put yours on first. Because actually, you not only will you be at risk, you're not going to be able to help anybody else because you'll be suffocating too. Like that's not going to work, right? But actually, when you invest in your self-love, it's helping the health of your marriage. It's contributing to the happiness in your marriage. And it doesn't have to just be seen as this like selfish thing that's harming the people that you love. It's actually doing good to you and to them too. Now, these are all tips for how self-love can benefit your marriage. But if you're not sure, like, well, what do I actually do to grow my self-love? Like, if it's going to have these great impacts, what do I actually do to improve my self-love? Or do I need any help with that? Or what is involved in that process? Then be sure to check out my course. I have a course called Self-Love Slowdown. And it's about slowing down to help build these foundations that we need that actually do contribute to better relationships, better sense of self, better, more positive view of the future and excitement for the future ahead. And so it goes through the actual foundational steps that you would need to take and walk through in order to be intentional in your self-love journey. So again, that's Self-Love Slowdown. The link is in the description box, and you can check that out and see if it's something that you may have been missing, may have been looking for. And feel free to definitely shoot me any questions or ask me any questions below in the comments about that course. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.